Welcome to Project Eternity. We are redefining Tantra because there's a lot of misinformation about the most powerful spiritual technology on the planet. It is, of course, about the orgasm and the oneness. But for humanity, it is all about creativity, individuation, the feeling of bliss, balance, love. So let's discuss some of the problems that exist and how we are addressing that. Currently, the situation is that the deep wisdom is completely missing. Nobody's connecting and synthesizing these dots of information to create new wisdom. And that's where we come in, because the moment we can, we are going to build an applied spirituality model that anybody can apply in their day-to-day life. And that's exactly how we succeed. Tantra is also about leveraging the body. The body is the technique. You heard that right. The body is the technique, which is the reason connecting the genes, the key centers of the body, herbal medicine, the rituals that invoke these energies are fundamental. Last but not the least, and this is where there's hardly been research at all. Rather, this information is completely confidential and hidden. There are 64 cosmic archetypes, and our focus is to decode them because this is where the entire tantric knowledge stays. We'll talk about this a little more. So anyway, what matters is what humanity has right now is just 1% of the total knowledge. Even if the knowledge exists conventionally, it is usually pretty much stale. Our job is to create paradigm shifts and synthesis of new wisdom and then bring it to humanity. Not to everybody, but to a small section of it. So let's talk about decoding it. But before we talk about decoding it, we already own this property which we are dedicating to Tantra. It's a decent, size site with beautiful landscaping, completely pure, and it's completely confidential with mountains all around. We'll talk about this more, but let me just quickly share a video. The whole area basically has 4 seasons. It's magical. Imagine being able to meditate, sit down alone and individuate. Imagine lovers holding hands, families coming together with no disturbance from anyone. That's the purity. So now let's go back to the archetypes, but what I wanted to tell you is that we already have these things ready to go. Archetypes. This is the fundamental thing, and this is the most exciting thing. Nataraja over here, from a subconscious point of view, creates the Star of David. In the night sky, the Nataraja is the Orion with its feet pointing towards Sirius. And Sirius is considered to be the spiritual center of the universe. What the ancients did, and by the way, when we say ancients, these ancients existed about 30,000, 20,000 years back. They were 21 foot tall, they were androgynous, they were brilliant, and they encoded all this knowledge of the cosmos in these archetypes. And we just have to go and interpret this. Now, what I'm going to show you is very complex, so please pardon me. But what I wanted to tell you is that once you understand how the energy moves from the stars and how it connects to the human body, the rest is easy. That is exactly what the agenda is at Project Eternity. Nobody has done this before. But we have the capability because we have been researching this for a decade and we have the right people. And that is the reason we want to synthesize this knowledge, bring it to people. So let's talk about what are the fundamental things we are going to be focusing on. The first is the power of astral light that comes from the constellations. We have to harness it. The astral light comes from these archetypes and enter our spines, and it changes the DNA and the secretions and the alchemy of our body. The second point is we study the 64 archetypes, which actually gives us higher powers called siddhis. The third is the power of understanding the Shiva and the Shakti, which is a sacred orgasm. But it is a practice, and it can be done by connecting the knowledge between the mantra, tantra, yantra, and mudra. We'll talk about mudra in a short while, but for the time being, let me tell you, very few people in the world know what I'm talking about. Now, there's going to be another piece for which we are doing a separate funding altogether, which is finding magical plants in the Himalayas that the yogis use, and it gives miraculous powers. For example, regenerating the entire body. There are herbs that you can use. If you give it to people, people only say the truth, like a lie detector. There's plenty of them. We don't want to mention this because they are utterly confidential, and the yogis don't want to distribute this knowledge. So now let's talk about what we started off with, that is Tantra, and it is all about harnessing the Shiva and the Shakti, the sensual energy. Let's talk about this interesting thing right now. This is a temple in India. If your eye completely falls into the erotic pictures, I have to tell you that you're not wrong, and the human body is automatically built to look at eroticism. Why is that? Because we were all supposed to raise our energies from the bottom of the spine and raise it through our spine to higher chakras or energy centers without the ejaculation. That is the fundamental piece. And what has happened is we have lost this knowledge, or, people have just hidden this knowledge. And that's our goal, to bring it back. What people do not notice is the existence of the archetypes on the left and on the right. Now it'll make sense to understand that these archetypes are basically showing how the sensual energy flows. You can see the two Leos over here, and these Leos are saying that this is the lion's gate, this is the Sirius, this is where the sexual energy comes from. And if you think these are humans, they are not. The ancients were never bothered about the body. Because remember, they were androgynous. They were all connected. They could raise their awareness and energies any instant. They coded this for us and left it for us to decode. So, if you think the women are touching their genitals, that's actually wrong. Those are hand gestures called mudras. So, let's see where this goes. From the feet of Shiva, the energy goes to the yoni or the womb or the matrix. And ultimately, this energy manifests as fractal energy that creates these 5 elements. This is what we need to harness. Now, let's talk about how to interpret this code, because this code exists. The human body, the atom, the temple, and the cosmos are one and the same. The macrocosm is the microcosm, and we'll show it to you. On the right picture is a Rosicrucian temple. It says the same thing. We are not the only ones. Every generation in the past understood this, but this knowledge has been kept hidden because this knowledge of Tantra is exceptional. It makes the human extremely powerful. It gives miraculous super energies. And that's the reason the word anatomy even has the word atom in it. You can see how things are connected. Our entire body is the temple, is the cosmos, and the highways between different constellations and the flow of energy is the same as the arteries and the veins and the nerve system. The 64 archetypes are inside this temple. What you see at the periphery are the 64 archetypes, or the yoginis that they call. These yoginis, they impart the powers that people need today to raise their vibration. So if you go and meditate right at the center, your magnetic field, the temple's magnetic field, the archetypal magnetic field, and the cosmos, all these magnetic fields come together, and that is when the energy is transmitted. Now, the science of bliss or orgasm is this, which is the nesting of multiple toruses and magnetic fields together. The Egyptians explained the whole thing beautifully with Nut over there, the sky goddess. Her body has 64 archetypes, or the 64 stars, and they are white, which means pure light. The red dots or circles are the red chakras or energy centers. Her feet and her hands are based on 32 sections, which is our spine. What we need to do is connect these dots together and to study the gene keys, which means we have to go back to the ancient wisdom of I Ching. If you think I Ching is too boring, let me tell you, I Ching is the basis of our 64-bit computer code. It is nothing but 2 to the power 6 binary code. And the reason we say that is the computer algorithms or 64-bit architecture completely mimics the I Ching model. Now, what's in it for us? Each and every number over here or archetype gives you certain shadows that trigger you, certain gifts that are granted because with your birth, and then there are certain superpowers that are granted to you as well. At Project Eternity, everything is experiential. There's no mumbo jumbo. We take this knowledge and help generations experience their shadows first, to understand their gifts, and then move towards the ultimate siddhi. And that's our intent of applied spirituality. This is the mitochondria. The mitochondria has 64 codons. Each of these are known as Christe lumens. It means, if you translate Latin to English, it means terminal light, light at the peak. What happens inside is this hair or cilia-like structures. They create a 101010 continuously with these 64 archetypes, and that creates the energy matrix in our body. So you must be wondering, it's too much. Yes, it is too much, and not many people know what we know. And this is a paradigm change. So if you're looking for a one-liner, this is it. Studying the temples and the archetypes and how the energy flows is going to connect the codons in our body, which are all connected to the 64 hexagrams and the divinity in the cosmos. You can see the temple on the left is the same as the I Ching and the codon, the 64 codon model over here. Let's talk about funding and activity. Our focus is studying 12 temples. That's the base. Studying these 12 temples in India is going to give us a substantial amount of knowledge for the next decade. Is it going to be easy? No, that's why we need a huge team together. And it is not just the team, it's managing the operations and the costs that ultimately becomes way more important. Remember why we need a team. Let's look at this temple, the Kailash temple. This is probably built 20,000, 30,000 years back from one single rock. There are no debris, no power tools, nothing found, even in the 100-mile radius from this temple. How did they build it? If I tell you how they built it, you will not believe me. But let's talk about the technology a little bit, and you'll see how advanced these beings are. When I say beings, yes, they are human, but they're different. Look at the female statue. Look at the garland and the beads on her neck. Do you see how it hangs? Not even a 3D printer can print this model. That's the technology they used. And people say they use, iron tools or copper tools. And we all laugh. On the right, what you see is a code very similar to the Celtic knots. And this is right at the top of the temple. The whole thing is built from one block, remember. Imagine building that vertically up with precision, with rock, and bending it. That's the kind of people and their knowledge that we are dealing with. That's why we need a team to gather this knowledge. So we believe that per temple is going to cost about 1.2 million, and the cost might even go down depending upon the temple or even go up. But our model, although we are looking for a donation really, because spirituality is not for sale, unfortunately, we will not allow that. We are not looking for venture capital firms. We want to also give you a lot back. So wait for this part. So what's in it for me, and what can you get out of this? The first thing is we have to build a movie. And the movie needs to be built not with the depth of the knowledge, but with a decent amount of knowledge. And do you think people are going to watch episodes of Tantra? I bet. So if there are profits, feel free, we can always share it. We will build a movie. The point is, you own or we share the rights to the movie, you name it. And you name the episodes, it's totally up to you. But the most important thing that should attract you is this. That is, building a small residence at Project Eternity. And of course, it's going to be named after you and your family. But this gives you the opportunity to bring your family for 3 generations every year to gather this spiritual knowledge that people die for. Imagine an offer like this, which nobody else has in this world. The third point is serving others. That is fundamental because the village that covers the outside of the eco-village that we have for Tantra is a very pure village. The people have the money, but they are the happiest people on the planet. And that's why we have to educate them. And once we educate them, it creates jobs. It creates the service opportunities for the tantric ecosystem. The last one is the access to herbal medicine, healing, and knowledge. Now, we will never sell any medicine outside. Never. It will not be sold. Only those who donate and their families for 3 generations at the site will have it. Now, let me give you a compelling reason why you should donate in this project. The word donation has a very negative connotation. It's like we are looking for charity. Well, not really. Let's look at some of the problems we're going to be solving for you. The generations forward will suffer from the biggest challenge ever, the head and the heart problem. These two have different languages. Our mind has two minds, which means our brain has two hemispheres or bicameral. And that's the reason we can hold paradoxical ideas for the same idea, to be or not to be. But the heart has oneness. Nobody talks about the heart anymore. But at the end, it's the heart that matters. Let me explain to you. Bill Gates, two beautiful daughters, one great son. Can you imagine? Bill Gates will be continuously worried. Is his children going to really find love? Are the spouses going to really love them for who they are? Or is it for the money or the fame? You know, divorce can be common, and that's one of the biggest reasons how families and generations and wealth erode. And this is where what we do offers a phenomenal solution. First of all, we are focused on well-being. And this is the highest need for generations. The base of spiritual wisdom and the heart consciousness needs to be embodied at an early age. That's when they can be themselves. The individuation, self-inquiry, those are fundamental things. This is what they do at Project Eternity Tantra. Love and relationships, this is where the big challenges happen. We have built that experiential model, and we will test and teach and become better and better and better. Our herbs can solve many of these challenges. We will help people conquer the shadows. So before they tie the knot or they break the knot, let them come here. We will solve it, which means that if they are having sex and sensuality issues, we will teach them the art of finding bliss with Tantra. Last 2 points. You see, acceptance and trauma is fundamental. Identifying and accepting the fears is what we are going to be doing here as well. When most people who look for money, specifically donations or even investment, they'll tell you all the goodies and the good things. We want to tell you the bad things first, which is acceptance of trauma is not easy. It is tough. That's the reason over here at Project Eternity Tantra, we'll have 10 teachers per family to ensure they are taken care of. So they accept their trauma and their fears and shadows to get to the gifts and the siddhi. The last piece, family feuds. If you want to resolve any family feuds, come and speak with our eldermen and women in a pristine environment with the entire family and go through the program, and then you'll see the solution will be automatic. I'm sure as a successful business professional, you probably have access to the best resources on the planet. I'm sure you have a financial plan, a legal plan, a plan of trust and wills and family business operations. Well, but have you ever thought that there is a need for a plan to create well-being for generations? People have different coaches. People have business coaches, financial coaches, people have marriage counselors. But have you ever thought of a spiritual guru or a spiritual organization that will always lift them up? This is where the fundamental paradigm lies, which is this a donation or is this an investment for you? You can think both ways, but since we are giving a lot back to you, this is an investment. What we are truly doing is bringing a paradigm shift. Now let's get back to the residences. Everything is exclusive, limited, and confidential. Period. There'll never be more than 12 family homes on site at Project Eternity Tantra. To end this entire presentation, our agenda is to be number one in Tantra and Tantric wisdom and its applications to heal people and transform people. We are never going to be a commercial organization. We don't need to be, that's not our agenda. Now, why will we succeed? Because we are synthesizers. We are the people that bring together all these dots that people don't consider and bring that paradigm shift. Whether you donate, invest, or do none of them, we appreciate you going through this entire deck. It'll be great to have a conversation, but even if we can't, we are thankful that we have given you certain information that I'm sure you have loved. Thank you.